Welcome back to the United Pubcast for your latest chat. And my God, there's a lot to talk about. We're just going to have a bit of a casual chat to kill a little bit of time before the weekend and sort of calm everyone's nerves as best we can. But about 2 hours before after we got home from work and sort of setting up the stream and everything, there's nothing but news breaking around Old Trafford in regards to transfer come-ins and outgoings, etc. So a lot to talk about. Rob is off the bench from It's a Football Thing, filling in for Larry. Thank God I'll give you a little bit of information in regards to tomorrow night, Friday Night Pint, bit of a special episode. But Rob, as you can see, is a proud member of the Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney from the flag behind us. As I said, behind him, I should say. As I said, Rob, my reason for chatting tonight, and I'm talking all things Man United, is simply to kill a bit of time before the weekend. How you feeling a few days out?
Very nervous, mate. You know me, pessimistic Rob. Always look at the negatives first. I listened to your preview today, and I don't know if it was made me worse or better. But look, I'm excited. It's a cup final, it's FA Cup final. It's a Manchester derby. But for what's riding on the line, it just feels a lot more at pressure, obviously, at this point. But look, I'm excited, but obviously nervous at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. George, good to see you as always. Tom Livingston, hope all is well, mate. Justin, hope to see you on Saturday night as well, as always. And John here, good to see you, mate. If you need a bit of tennis content, go over and subscribe to Talking Tennis. We'll get into all this, but yeah, what I love about Ten Hag is doesn't go for the obvious players like Mourinho, Fergie. Loved a left field signing like Cantona, York. And there it goes for Ericsson, Mount, etc. Fits that mold. Well, we'll get into all those names and sort of the reliability of it and everything. But I think this is what is interesting, Rob, in regards to all these news break-ins. Sometimes you get these stories, Mbappe to United or Neymar to United, you just sort of shrug it off, and rightly so. All these sort of big names and sort of big links coming at the moment, there seems to be some credibility behind it. And usually you get maybe sort of one credible story a month, but it looks like we're getting 2 or 3 credible stories every 2 or 3 days now. So before you get into the sort of specific names, just what do you think of the way the news is breaking? Because we're still in the mid, or not, I don't want to say mid-season, but we're still in the part of the season. We've still got a big game to go. It's not the post-season just yet. Manchester City still have European football after this, so it's quite obviously when we stop kicking the ball next week, obviously you can see the transfer news flooded in. But for now, to get credible news just seems a little bit, I don't want to say weird in a bad way, but yeah, just a little bit unexpected.
Very un-Manchester United, like that's what I'd say. And but look, I think it's very positive and exciting that where it looks like, look, I thought when we got Eric in, he's the type of guy, he wants to build on our foundations. He keeps saying that every press conference. So for me, I think he's going to be on the board constantly saying, let's look to the future. He wants to have people for the preseason. Like last season, it was 2-3 games in before we got Anthony, before we got Casemiro, before Ericsson came. So he wants people. I think just Malacia we might have had on the preseason. So for him, he wants to build on this season, even though like technically it's not finished yet. But it's good, man. With proper links from proper sources coming out, it's exciting. Some of them we're always going to get links from United. It's easy to tag United, and everyone's going to get clicks on it. But when they're credible sources, as you said, it's exciting and positive.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Justin brings up the point here. I feel we're back to being club players want to come, quality coach, Champions League football, progression. The names will start coming. In regards to that, and look, Ed Woodward's not part of the club, or in terms of he's going to get a huge payout when Manchester United do get sold, but Ed Woodward has moved on, and we pointed so much of the transfer frustration towards him in recent seasons. It's changed a little bit under Richard Arnold, but we still cast our mind back to this time last year, or sort of when Erik ten Hag did come in, that window. While we did get the players we do like and we love so much now, at the time the business didn't feel good in regards to how he went about it. So I'm just thinking where he's thinking, okay, Erik ten Hag wants these players in, which I completely agree. Will he? Like in regards to last season, okay, it ended up okay, but the way it sort of panned out, it wasn't. And I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm sure Erik ten Hag, I'm sure Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but the evidence we have, even under Richard Arnold, and unfortunately at the moment the discussion still has to be the Glazers because they're still the ones signing the checks. How confident are you? You have to take Erik ten Hag's ambition aside. How confident are you within the club to get these deals across the line?
I have a feeling we're going to get one very soon. Like I could see not long after the FA Cup final. We'll just take Mount, for instance. This one looks like he wants him. He looks like there's apparently agreements. His terms are agreed. Obviously, we're going to have to talk to Chelsea for a price. But if he wants to come and he's happy to come to us, this could be straight away like, wow, I don't know if you can say he's a marquee signing, but he's a premium, a young English league player, which is a big thing for Manchester United to become in. So if we can get this under wraps in the next, 1 or 2 weeks after the FA Cup final, that's excitement built in already. Like it could be a big gap in between, but I definitely think we're going to get an early signing, just not long after the final, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree, and that's just a hunch, and maybe off the back of some reliable journalism. But just two comments here. We'll stay on Mason Mount. I think that's where we'll start it. We'll get into the Hojlund discussion in a little bit. And there is obviously current plays in the news in regards to Harry Maguire and Diogo Dalot. But just before we head into Mason Mount, Tom, here, apparently there was 100 million to spend, but Mount will be 55 million, Hojlund 40 million, and they want to sign a goalkeeper and a main striker. Interesting to see where the money is coming from, considering we haven't sold anyone. I want to keep that in regards to the Mason Mount discussion. And George here saying, I actually rate Mount, thinking go a few more gears under Eric Ten Hag. I think it's a good opportunity to have you back on the podcast, Rob, in regards to your views around Mason Mount. You watch Chelsea a lot. I know you share a big disdain towards Chelsea, like most of us. In regards to, you do know a lot about the ongoings there, obviously, from It's a Football Thing. The link is in the description to Rob's channel, to It's a Football Thing. And one of these Chelsea mates on there obviously has no expertise around Mason Mount. Obviously, I think he met his father about a year ago or so.
Yep.
And had a chat to him, sort of thing. So Mason Mount has always sort of popped up in your Manchester United and Chelsea discussions in regards to, he's a big, your mate RJ is a big fan of him. You've never been completely sold on him. And I'm a bit mixed because I've heard interviews maybe 2 years ago and maybe even a couple of months ago, always sort of on the England camps. And all the England players unanimous say Mason Mount not is the best player like England players used to talk about Paul Scholes. They talk about technique and ability. They say Mason Mount is clearly the best player in the England squad in regards to technique and technical ability. And you look at the players in that squad, you've got Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane, Phil Foden, players like that. I always hold weight with what a teammate says and a professional footballer. When they say something, okay, hold some weight. And they all say Mason Mount is technically the best player in the England camp. And I'm just thinking, that must hold some weight. I've always been thinking he's a very good player for Chelsea, very good player. Okay, elite level in terms of taking Manchester United to the next level. I think maybe not quite so much. So just your thoughts on Mason Mount, because I know you've been critical and sort of hesitant in the past, but now the links come to fruition. You think, well, hang on, you start to see positives in it, and you sort of, it sways your mind a little bit. So Mason Mount at the moment, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, as I tweeted out today, very split. But it's just, I think it's more of a shock, to be honest, because he's just a player. Number one, I never see it leaving Chelsea.
He's Chelsea.
He's a Chelsea boy. That's it. He came from the academy. He's like 6 years old. He's been at Chelsea, and not just leaving Chelsea is one thing, but moving to a direct rival in Manchester United, which is a shock. And now that it's a possibility, like it's not someone that I'm jumping at, because when I see someone, even if it's something that's not going to happen, or like Mbappe, you get excited kind of thing, but. It's someone that I think could be a very good signing. Obviously, I think he'd come in, like as you previously said, for Eriksen, when Eriksen would go on the bench. Is a good squad player for the bench. He's getting on the other side of 30 now, and his legs, can't normally get to over the hour mark. But a young English player, like I said, he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10, so it's good with a rotation in midfield. But I think he's got a lot of technical ability. He's got quality. I think he can add goals and assists as well. It's just, I just feel weird about the whole thing, because I just
as the football world, as the football, whether our fan base and the community and the media, etc., been a little bit harsh on him in regards to, you look at Chelsea, who has had a good season for Chelsea, sort of thing, and Mason Mount obviously has to take responsibility for his own performances, but the whole team has been performing sort of so below par. But if you look at the 2 seasons before that, he's Chelsea's best player, and one of those seasons was in a Champions League winning campaign. I'm just thinking. Again, I hold so much weight with what his professionals say and his teammates say about him. I also look what Chelsea fans say, and I'm not across the whole Chelsea sort of Twitter sort of environment, but in terms of the tweets I'm seeing, Chelsea fans are not happy with this. I'm just saying they don't want to be losing. I'm thinking, well, hang on, if they don't want to be losing him, it's not like us saying, okay, get rid of Harry Maguire sort of thing. That's kind of unanimous amongst the fan base. But Chelsea are saying, hang on, we should be keeping this guy. And that gives me confidence in regards to, okay, he's had a poor season. Who hasn't at Chelsea? But the previous 2, he was their best player. Yep. And a best player in a team that I assume Chelsea, did they finish above us in both those seasons? Definitely one of them they did.
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 4th round there when we were.
So very close. They've been quite consistent in previous years, and Mason Mount has been a part of that. So my main sort of hesitancy in regards is, I'll welcome the player. Okay, yeah, good player come in. If one of Fred and McTominay to leave and we need to bring an extra body in the midfield, I'd hope it's another body. I'd hope Mason Mount comes in with a Frankie de Jong or that big name to sort of partner Casemiro. But my issue around the Mason Mount deal is simply the price tag. You're hearing 2 figures, and one is Man United about 50 million. You think, look, that's too much, but okay, 50 million, like probably the going rate these days, too much, but it is what it is. but you hear him from Chelsea's camp, and they're talking 80 million.
Yeah.
And you're just saying usually these fall in between. So, okay, let's say you're saying 65 million sort of thing. Look, I understand the going rate. I understand young English player. I understand he's very good. And if Erik ten Hag really wants him, you have to back the manager up. But it just seems not so much that he'd be a waste of money or not worth it. It just seems the way Manchester United will do their transfer business, that would eat a big chunk of it. And that's what turns me off it.
Well, look, the two things for me, again, price is a big one, as you said. Look, I think they'll kind of go around in the middle, meet in the middle. If he's pushing for a move, like I said, I reckon at 60, 65 million should top it. But we've got to be strong on our side this time to say, okay, this is what we're going to give the max. This is as high as we're going to go, and that's it. Pull the plug if it's not like, okay, like we've done with Harry Maguire before. We're going to give you this, we're going to give you this, and then they held out for what they want, and then we give it to them. I think it's a time now in the transfer window to start putting our foot down and saying, this is take it or leave it at the end of the day, or this is what we think is a fair deal. If you don't want it, move on and we go for another kind of, just so we don't get that United tax. We need to start bringing down our wage bill. We need to start get rid of that United tax, which is a hard thing to do, but it's good to start now with something like a Mason Mount. I'm just quickly on the quality thing. Look at how Marcus Rashford last year on form. How many people wanted to sell him last year? Yeah. He had one of his worst. He's had, he had a really good preseason. Erik ten Hag has been one of the best things for him, and he's had one of the best seasons of his career. So, like you said, 2 years ago in the Champions League run, he was one of their better players. He's had Chelsea as a whole has had a bad season, so you can't just single him out because there's a lot of other quality players in there. They've got World Cup winners in that team at the moment. They haven't been performing. So, I think the whole quality thing, he's young, and I think he can definitely go up a few gears, as previously said in the chat before, under Erik ten Hag. It's just, for me, it's just a shock. If we get this over the line, I'll definitely welcome it. Like I said, and I think good chemistry. I think he's good teammates with Luke Shaw. Who knows? Like I know with Declan Rice, there could be something in that because they've always wanted to play together. They're best mates as well. I can't see us spending that much money, but it's just good at the moment now. This is how important Champions League football is, that it's drawing these kind of players, and we're going to get linked with these type of players compared to Europa League. And like, no Champions League, we're not interested. Now we've got that Champions League pool is definitely a positive for us.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned it in regards to your quality discussion there. In regards to a huge thing for me is, again, the times I've watched Mason Mount play, and look, I don't analyse his performances, but just what sort of catches the eye. I think all of us see the football, they see the passes or the goals, everything. I see a lot of energy when he doesn't have the ball, and I just think, okay, that's maybe why Erik ten Hag values him in regards to what he gets from Anthony, maybe what he doesn't get from Christian Eriksen, but what he does get from Bruno. So that is where I think, okay, maybe he might be frustrating to us in regards to, okay, he's not worth that. But to what Erik ten Hag wants, maybe he is. I think he does provide in terms of suit us defensively in regards to what he brings. But just point here, just from Ashby, good to see you, mate. Let us know if you're here on Saturday night at Scruffy's. It sounds like Chelsea trying to recoup some money. This is what I want to throw the discussion to you, Rob, in regards to we have evidence of what Todd Boehly is doing in the transfer market in terms of bringing players in. Now, is that going to change this season? Likely. In regards, they can't keep spending that. But let's say they're still going to spend big money, you would assume. We don't know how he'll act in terms of getting rid of players. We've seen Ed Woodward bring all these players in for huge money and simply refuse to accept any transfer bids, which has kept these players at the club. Mason Mount, now Chelsea need to recoup some money. They need to sort of bring in some cash. What will Todd Boehly do, though? Will he hold out for the 80 million and some club will pay it, or will he be so desperate and so ruthless, Manchester United come in with a low ball figure of 30 and 40, so we simply need him off the books, and will he act in haste very quickly like that? And we have no information on how he will sell players yet. We'll get that answer in a few months' time. But just sure hunch, are Chelsea going to be a hard club to deal with in regards to signings, or are they going to be a bit of a pushover, a bit easy in regards to the amount of cash they do need to bring in?
Look, if I'm being honest, I don't think they'll be a pushover. I think they'll have their limits as well. Everyone's gonna take a loss. They're gonna have to take losses on all their players considering their form and their season so far this year. And especially if players want to leave, they're gonna have to, like I said, come to a bit of a middle ground. But if to say you're saying the low ball, I can't see anything because I know Liverpool, they were really interested in a Mason Mount, for instance. So if we're saying we're gonna give you 40, 50 max, and they come in and say, well, we're gonna give you 55, 60. I could see them saying, okay, I don't care what you want, Mason Mount. We're taking the money kind of thing. So, yeah, look, I don't think they're easy. They need to bring money in to balance their books. Obviously, I think we've seen Kovacic linked to City as well. So there's a few big players in that team that they might have to offload, young players as well. They've got to reduce their squad. They had 36 players. I heard that.
This is the point here. George brings up that 35 players on the books usually have 22. There was a photo, I think it might have been on Optus Sports, just on one of the Twitter pages we follow here, and it had Mark Schwarzer said, keep or sell for all these players.
Yep, it was like another full.
Those are three teams, like three full squads.
They had to, like, apparently their change room. They had to extend their change rooms for like just having team meetings and stuff like that. That's mental. But
But that's what I really feel for Graham Potter. And look, so many managers would love the problem of having too many players to pick from. Obviously, different clubs have different challenges, but Graham Potter was destined to fail from that. But we'll quickly move the discussion on because there's a lot more names, both non-Manchester United players, but still some Manchester United stories in regards to our current players I do want to touch on. But John here helping us along. Let's get this video to 10 likes. If you are watching, you are on your phone, just click like. It literally takes half a second, and it's no skin off your back, but it does really help the channel. And as I said, we've got a special video going out and audio podcast tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that, a little bit more pub content. But I'll bring this up here from Laurie Whitwell. This broke about an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago. Rasmus Hojlund. I have to be honest, I have not seen him play, but this has come from a very credible link, and his name is always out there, but from Laurie Whitwell here from The Athletic, who's obviously been on the podcast before, pretty much confirming when he talks, he's obviously got his ear to the ground very close to the club. I don't think he's sort of going to say anything without the club say so. The club's happy for this to come out, you'd think. So Man United have held detailed talks over Atalanta striker Rasmus Hojlund. Erik ten Hag ideally wants a young forward plus an experienced one. Hojlund 20 falls into the former category. Frankfurt's Randall Kolo Muani also discussed negotiations are still on over Mason Mount. So very interesting in regards to sort of the followed on from those stories in regards to one or two other journalists, I think Samuel Luckhurst as well, confirming that Erik ten Hag has actually held contact with Hojlund in regards to actually had one or two, he's called them Zoom calls or phone calls or whatever you want to describe them as. I'm sure that that's all legal and above board, but technically, if that's Liverpool doing that, I'd say, hang on, that's tapping up, like the Fulham manager with Fred in the car park the other day.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure this is all above board, and managers and players, they obviously speak to each other, so we're not going to get into the legalities of that, but I find that interesting in the way that's reported. But look, he follows Serie A closely. I haven't seen this guy play, but his name is always bandied about in terms of the big clubs. He does seem potentially the next big thing. My first instinct when I did hear this name a couple of months ago in regards to a big sort of money move to Manchester United was, okay, he's Scandinavian, his name sounded like Erling Haaland. Okay, that was my first link, and I thought, okay, he's obviously got a little bit more about him than that. He's obviously doing very well in his own right. But I had to hold my hands up. Obviously, looks a good prospect. I have seen on YouTube, but I just haven't seen him play. But just your knowledge of the player.
Yeah, look, a bit similar to you, to be honest. And I watch a lot of Serie A, obviously not as much Atalanta. But yeah, look, I've heard the same thing, seen his YouTube, done my YouTube scouting on him. 20 years old, fits the bill for future striker. Hasn't got, I think I had a look, it's like 30 appearances, 8 goals this season. Whatever you want to say to that, if that's good or bad for a young striker. He's an up and coming, or he's a future aspect, you can obviously say, and that's what they want. Someone that's not going to just he's not going to come in and lead the line for United if we do buy him. But he could come off and start getting experience and be a future someone that can, have a successful career for the next 5-10 years at United, which is hopefully. And yeah, he's got a good build. He's got a bit of pace on him. Like I said, 20 years old. And yeah, if Ten Hag must, again, if he's having face-to-face contact with him already, there must be something he likes. Yeah. And again, I think they're not making Champions League football again, which is another pull for us. And he's publicly come out and said that he's a big Manchester United fan, so that's always going to win the fans over as well.
Yeah, definitely, Steve. Awesome, good to see you, mate. Hojlund, 100% improvement on Weghorst. Say that when Weghorst wins us the Manchester Derby on Saturday, but look, I do agree. Weghorst will have that discussion after the weekend. But Box here saying, can you see us getting 2 centre forwards? I think that's where this discussion sort of does lie in regards to, okay, we want to bring Hojlund in. Fantastic. I'm all aboard. I haven't seen him play, but I'll take Twitter's word for it that he's brilliant. Okay, I'll bring him in. 20-year-old's not leading the line for Manchester United in a title-winning campaign next season. So obviously you can bring him in and he can be the next Erling Haaland in 2 or 3 years' time. We need to I've just got to throw the name. Maybe someone disagree, and that's valid, but Harry Kane is the man for now, for next season. We can't be bringing Hojlund in for whatever price and expect, okay, that's our goal scorer. Now, yes, he might come in and be absolutely brilliant. Who would have sort of picked Erling Haaland, still very young, and banging in those goals, of course. But Hojlund has to go in that category for me. Obviously, he's off the table now because he's contract at Brighton, but at Evan Ferguson, in terms of, okay, you can bring in this young player, that's great, but he has to be accompanied by a £100 million goal scorer.
Yeah, look, I agree. And like you said, Harry Kane there, that's someone I definitely want this year. And I was on the train before that, go get an Osterman or, someone else of that caliber. But I think he's the one we really need. We need someone that's going to come in, proven. It's just, I think someone, even if it was 100 million and we got him for you know he's just going to hit the ground running and get you 30 goals or 25
I
goals.
think Harry Kane's the only one, and it's hard. Look, anything can happen, but in terms of a guarantee of goals, he's potentially the only player I could say. Who knows? But I pretty much guarantee every other player you bring in a Neymar or even a Benzema or a Lewandowski, maybe they would flop. I just don't see a situation where Harry Kane would flop. And look, who knows what would happen, but you cannot buy a guarantee. But that's where my confidence or my leaning towards is in Harry Kane, because I just only see goals.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing, that it's the pressure for me. Just say if we spend the 100 million on Ramos from Benfica, he's young, he's good, but if he comes in and doesn't perform or doesn't get that 20 goals that we're expecting from him, the papers are gonna get on him, the press is gonna get on him, the fans are gonna get on him. So I just think at the moment, for where we are to go to that next level, obviously with the Champions League, we've obviously try and push for maybe a better than third spot next year. Go get Harry Kane like we've done Van Persie that year, and just go. We've created so much chances. We've seen one of the most creative chances, and in our conversion rate is one of the most worst in the league. So someone like Harry Kane would just absolutely feast off the creativity in our team. So for me, honestly, I'd spend the money. I think Daniel Levy is going to be really hard, but at the same time, if he lets Harry Kane go next year on a free, that's just, I don't know which one's more stupid, not taking the money or letting him go for free next year when they're not even in Champions League or nothing next year.
As a fellow Australian, Ange Postecoglou might have an English goal scorer to deal with when he arrives in a couple of weeks. That'll be interesting. I don't think he should take the job, but I can understand why, and I definitely wouldn't stand in his way. But that'll be interesting, and for a future Tottenham podcast. But before we move on, we'll stay on Chelsea. We'll just or take it back to Chelsea. A comment here from Justin. There's a few other comments I want to get to around Diogo Dalot as well. But Justin brings up here, I wouldn't say in regards to bringing those goals in, but João Felix, what do you think? Not just your opinion on sort of bringing him to United, but just what do you think happens with him in general? Because he was linked with, it was either going to United, Chelsea, or Arsenal. He went to Chelsea. We brought in Weghorst. It is what it is. Now, Felix, I don't think is someone coming in and score you the goals. My God, though, when he has played for Chelsea, when I watched him, he's quality. He's such a good player. I don't know if it's what we need. Like, I'd welcome the good play. Like, I love nothing more than seeing a fine footballer at Old Trafford. I don't think he's what we need, but his name will be bandied about because, will it? Or do you see a situation where he goes back to Madrid?
Look, I think he goes straight back to Madrid, and they just try and straight on the market. I think between him and the club, they've had a falling out. I'm pretty sure I even read a Fabrizio comment saying he'll return and then straight back on the market, and they'll listen to that bidding war pretty much whoever wants him. But look, it kind of did. I know, again, you have to say Chelsea's form wasn't great. He's definitely a quality player, but what do you classify him as? For me, you can't classify him as, he's not a 9. He's like an in-betweener. He just likes to float. I wouldn't call him a traditional winger either. And yeah, he just doesn't fit the bill. For me,
just like a second striker, not a number 10, not a striker. Just
for me, a striker in a 4-4-2 or a pairing up top. Like, you can't put him by himself, and he's not a winger.
Big man, actually playing with Weghorst, big man, little man.
Yeah, and like Lukaku and Latana at Inter, look, they work all the time. But yeah, like, I just couldn't rely on him. And look, I'm kind of glad we didn't. Like, you look at him, I think he's probably scored them about the same amount of goals as Weghorst since his loan as well, to be honest. So
he definitely doesn't bring those goals. That's not his game. Yeah. It is one of those things, but it was such a big name in January, and I think a lot of us were behind it. Maybe we were desperate in regards to the situation we did find ourselves in.
Yeah, a lot of Portuguese number 7. I think a lot of people got excited about.
God, yeah. Well, speaking of Portuguese, nicely into the next topic, I'll just go back to a few comments earlier in regards to John here saying we need to still need a right back, and he sort of brings up the point that Diogo Dalot has signed a new contract. Not sure where Wan-Bissaka is in terms of staying or going. My first thought is I was very happy with the Diogo Dalot sign. I've been very impressed with him this season. I'm sort of glad he's tied down because he's still a young player. And he's quite experienced now, but I thought that's a good name to tie down. My discussion, I've got 2 questions to you in regards to your thoughts around the contract. You're happy with it, and your thoughts on Diogo Dalot. But also just in regards to how this contract's come about, and has United done it correctly, or should we have maybe sort of looked at the situation in a little bit more depth? Because if you cast your mind back to before the World Cup, Diogo Dalot was free, and this is when these contract negotiations started. It was off the back of very good form, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka looked out the door. Suddenly, Dalot got injured at the World Cup. Wan-Bissaka's come in, and you'd have to say saved his career. And I think most of the Manchester United fans would say Wan-Bissaka's first choice and should stay at the club now. I'm thinking I would agree with that as well. but Diogo Dalot's just confirmed that he's staying at the club. Now I'm thinking, well, are these the two right backs we want? Personally, I am happy with that, but a lot of people do throw names out there. I've seen a comment, not sure who brought it up, in regards to a box brings up here. I really like the look of Frimpong, would benefit us with the emergence of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Dalot, plus the needs of other areas. I can't see us looking at right backs this summer. So that's where I look. I don't think we'll bring in a right back, but you look when Erik ten Hag did arrive. It was almost, I wouldn't say it was the priority, but it was a name that was always bandied about with him. Huri and Timber, Frimpong, etc.
Humphreys as well was another one.
So, just your thoughts in regards to, I wouldn't say have we jumped the gun with this Diogo Dalot contract, but it's just interesting. Like, it kind of potentially looks like we might not be. I don't think we should be ruthless at right back. I'm very content with what we have. But if Erik ten Hag did want to be ruthless, this contract is very interesting because Diogo Dalot might be second choice at the moment, but he's the one with the long-term contract now. So if we want to keep Aaron Wan-Bissaka, there's no room for another right back. So just your thoughts, long-winded question, but your thoughts on the Dalot contract and also what it means for the future of Wan-Bissaka and Dalot moving forward.
Look, first question, am I happy he's got an extension and does he deserve it? I'll say yes. For me, I thought 5 years is a bit much. I thought the first thing I seen was 5 years. Well, I thought it might have been 3 with 1 year extension or something like that.
I think his age. You want to get a real big contract in.
24 years old, and look, I'll go back to when Jose bought him with this age. There's going to be United's right back for the next 10 years. So look, money wise, we're going to get our money out of him. Obviously, we would have got a bit of a bump up in his contract now. But look, his brother, there's 2 options here. He's going to be, at the moment, he's not number 1, but his brother, they're going to try and make money off Aaron Wan-Bissaka while his stocks are high at the moment. From 6 months ago being out the door to now being, he's starting and he'll probably start in the final. So I don't know if they're kind of, okay, we've got Dalot, he can be, if not a backup, he can be our starter, and then we might go in the shop window and try and find someone to push him or someone to even possibly come in and take another starting spot and try and make some money on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. A few people have been interested in him. I think they could, his stocks are high at the moment. They could they're not going to get 50 million like we paid, but $35 million you think you could get for someone like him in his form at the moment. For me, I don't think we need to go shopping for a right back. I think they both push each other. Dalot, he can play, worst case scenario, he can play off the left. He's a bit of a versatile player. We've even seen him playing up in midfield or on a winging position before. So he's very versatile, which I think works for him. He's young, like I said, he fits the bill for Ten Hag. Obviously, he was first choice under Eric when he first started. So yeah, it's a bonus for me. I'm happy with it. I don't think it's a position in the team where it's enough strength and enough depth in it. I think it's just a waste of time even looking at another right back at the moment.
Yeah, look, my thoughts around right back at the moment is in regards to, yes, we can have a discussion about the footballer and the quality and the tactics and sort of the future. I just look at it in terms of personnel and what I've seen from both right backs sort of on and off the pitch in regards to this season. Obviously, I think both have performed quite well on it, actually very well off it, but especially off it, there's 1 or 2 things I saw from Diogo Dalot which has made me say, okay, he's not Gary Neville or the world's best right back, but I say, okay, he's a Manchester United player. I see enough there in regards to his attitude. I like him. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka, well, I've always liked Wan-Bissaka. I've always had the questions, and then there was an obvious question at the start of the season, okay, his future is away from Old Trafford. He simply, even when fit, was not even making the bench. Like kids will make the bench over him. We'll go on short. We'll play Tyrell Malacia at right back. I think there was one. Was it the last game before the World Cup? I think Tyrell Malacia played away at Craven Cottage at right back, and Wan-Bissaka wasn't even on the bench. So his career was over. Did you ever hear a peep out of Wan-Bissaka's camp that he was screaming for a move or anything? There was nothing for Wan-Bissaka. Got his head down. It looked like he was doing individual training during the World Cup wherever he was. And to get his head down and come back and perform like that, I had nothing but praise for Aaron Wan-Bissaka on and off the pitch. And that is from that experience and seeing him do that, I've got nothing but respect for him. So that is why that is a Manchester United player for me. And look, if he decides he wants to move elsewhere, okay, fair enough. That's his career. But that is where I look at the right back situation, and I'm very content. I think probably both fullbacks. Maybe you have to start. Look, how old's Luke Shaw now? He must be pushing 30.
Yeah, he must be getting 28. I think he's 28, 29 maybe.
So maybe you start have to look, and maybe Malacia is that man. But then if Luke Shaw goes and Malacia becomes that man, you still need that new left back. So I think at the moment we're quite well stacked at fullback. Maybe in a year's 2 time, you maybe have to start looking at Luke Shaw potentially. But at the moment, fullback for me is more than fine, and that's a credit to Erik ten Hag and the individuals. But the other man across that back line, I don't think his future is at Old Trafford, Harry Maguire. This is interesting. The story has come out, and I'm not sure. I haven't clicked on the story and sort of understand the full details and the full sort of finances behind it, but the headline suggests that Harry Maguire is going to receive a £10 million payoff to leave Manchester United. Now, I don't know in what context that is in regards to that part of his contract, or United going to sort of take £10 million off a transfer fee to allow him to go. I'm not sure, but it does look like every day that goes past, Harry Maguire is one step closer towards an exit. Just your thoughts on in how this is coming to an end, because I think all things considered, it's coming to a pretty, I'd say, sort of clean end in regards to this. Could get messy. Look how the Ronaldo situation ended up, or if a big player is to leave in the summers, all this controversy. Then it looks like all parties are sort of smooth sailing towards this exit, and ultimately, I do think that's a good thing in regards to Manchester United doesn't need a circus around this situation. We need this sort of nipped in the bud without any drama, and I think that is where it is heading. So just your latest thoughts on this story, one that Harry Maguire is going to receive £10 million. Tough life, if he can get that for leaving a football club. But also just in regards to the person and the club coming to an end.
Yeah, look, I think obviously make it an easier exit if it is a golden handshake at the end of it, kind of a mutual kind of, okay, we're going to let you go, we'll pay you off, just because, it's up to him how he wants his career to play. If he wants to play, keep his spot in the England team, and, another team will pick him up. There's a lot of teams in Italy I've heard with a link to him and a rumor to go get him.
Do you think he takes inspiration from what Chris Smalling's doing?
Chris Wine, we never should have sold, but he's doing amazing in Roma. A lot of English players that are actually starting to go into the Serie A at the moment. Tammy Abraham, there's quite a few that have left. What was it? The ex-Chelsea one that went to AC Milan. I can't think of him. The centre back at the Tamori. All of them are playing really good, especially the centre backs at the moment. So I definitely think he'll definitely get. He's an England centre back, and he always performs for England as well. So and in the right system, he performs as well. So look, I just think I still have the suspicion that he's going to stay. I really do have a suspicion he's going to stay, and I don't know if he shouldn't be happy with what his position is, because he knows that he's third, fourth choice at the moment. But this season we have been going for our centre backs. He hasn't been used much, but we obviously know Lissandro at the moment. Lindelof's come in. We're going to be playing Champions League next year. So we're going to obviously have our most strongest playing in the Champions League, but he's still a good enough centre back to be playing against your lesser teams if he does want to stay. So, look, at the end of the day, for me, for his career, he should be going. And I think he's been a good captain, as the way he talks about the club. He's never done anything disrespectful. Obviously, he's had some issues off the field in his private life and stuff like that. But as a Manchester United captain and as a human being, he hasn't done a thing wrong in my
it goes to my next point here. Justin brings up the point here, and I'll disagree. Well, it's kind of I'll give my opinion. Justin goes, surely Maguire is United's worst captain and one of our worst signings. In regards to, I wouldn't say worst signing. I think Harry Maguire, take away the price tag, take away the drama, all the social media attentions, the way they sort of freeze frame some images and some goals. The treatment and criticism has been over the top. Now, his career has obviously sort of faded away at Manchester United and hasn't been good enough. But these first two seasons at Old Trafford were good. I remember before the Europa League final, the Manchester United fan base went in a meltdown because he wasn't available for the final. He was very good when he did arrive. Now, it has obviously gone downhill, and he has to take responsibility for that. So I wouldn't put him down as the worst signer. I've seen far worse. The worst captain is interesting, though, because in regards to how it has played out, I'll tend to agree. I would put him in that category. However, I think someone, unfortunately, would have to go in that category because simply all our other captains have been so good and so great. The bar is so high. Someone's going to have to be the worst of that bunch. Now, unfortunately, in terms of recent years, Ashley Young was in. Now, I liked Ashley Young, but maybe he was at the lower of that ladder. But I could accept a discussion around him being the worst captain. And again, I don't think he should have been given the captaincy at the time. In regards to, I think that's an issue you point at the club and the manager at the time. I think anyone sort of given that armband would definitely take it. But it's an interesting one. And look, he will fall into those categories. I just think as a player, we'll always remember sort of a lasting impression. We'll remember how it's ending. Unfortunately, that's how we view Ronaldo at the moment. Time's going to sort of heal a lot of things. But at the moment, it doesn't look like a good sign in regards to how he has played. But in my opinion, the first two seasons weren't good enough in regards to Manchester United as a whole. Of course not. That was throughout the whole team. That was the whole club, not just the individual. But ultimately, it comes, if you're the Manchester United captain, you do have to sort of bear a little bit more of the responsibility. And maybe that is why he doesn't sort of take all those honours. But maybe my view of him, I just don't rate him. And look, that's part of it. I have my own players you sort of agree with and disagree with, and you have sort of Everyone judges by its cover. Everyone does. We say we don't. We say we treat everyone equal. We don't. It's a simple thing. And
like I said, as a human being and the captain, the way he talked about the club was always fine. But you know, if he's lining up on the weekend and I see him in the starting 11, I'll lose my mind, kind of thing. Yeah. I don't feel safe with him in the team, especially in big games. And I think it's him at the moment as well. It's a mental thing because every time he does come on in the rare appearances he's had this year, there's always been a mistake, or if it's been a loss, he's always going to cop it. Maguire's in the team, we lost because of him. Maguire's in the team, we made the mistake because of him. And look, because the record isn't great on his behalf, especially in the last season or two, it's just something he has to wear. But like I said, as a person, like you met him and, you know, a good human being. And like I said, that's what I mean as a good captain. He's always talked much. But for me, he just hasn't had, what can I say? He just hasn't had that big kind of mentality as a Manchester United captain, like your Roy Keane's. You know, I think Bruno, a lot of people were still mixed on Bruno. And that's why I always think he speaks well. Stands up for the team. Yeah, he can be a bit of a
but Bruno has impressed me in that regard. I was very critical of him being the captain, but he's winning him around. And on that, Maguire, I just love him in regards to he needs media training, in my opinion, because the way he comes out and speaks sometimes, I just think, as I said, I was lucky enough to meet him in pre-season, and people talk about him not taking accountability or responsibility. He was in a room with us, a private room, chatting to a few United fans, and his honesty, I know I was effing shit last year. I understand it. I know I'm the first person to know I was shit. Like, I was trying my best. It just wasn't working. I was digging myself a hole. I couldn't get out of it, but I am trying my best. He said, but I can't, when I go out to the media, I've got these commitments. I do need a Manchester United captain's a very professional job. The scripts I've got to read from. It was a very candid talk. And I'm just thinking, yeah, do that in front of the camera. Like, this was behind closed doors. The people need to see that in regards. He has got an unfair crack of the whip, but ultimately, Manchester United and football's not fair, and he has to be better, and he hasn't been able to sort of provide better performances individually, and it's going to cost him his spot at Manchester United. And that's the career choice he has chosen. And look, if he's going to get £10 million for leaving, I'm sure he'll survive. But where does he likely go? As I said, Italy. Let's throw Italy out of it. Let's throw English Premier League. A couple of months ago, I would have said Tottenham. Now, I think if Ange Postecoglou comes in Tottenham, I think that maybe changes things. Now, is it the Harry Maguire deal, is that going to sort of be sort of connected potentially? So I was thinking Tottenham, but now I'm thinking, I don't know, West Ham, Aston Villa. Yeah. I see Aston Villa under Emery. I do see Aston Villa, and there has been links there in the past.
Yeah, I could see a West Ham, Aston Villa. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Aston Villa, I can't remember who they got as their centre back at the time.
Tyrone Mings.
Yeah, Mings, yeah.
But a couple of weeks ago, did we play Villa at Old Trafford a few weeks ago when Harry Maguire came on, and the Aston Villa fans were singing Harry Maguire's name?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, look, someone will pick him up. When he was at Leicester, he was a very good player at Leicester. Look,
that's my fear of bringing in who's a player in lower of the end of the Premier League who we want to buy. Who's a player? Off the top of your head. Anyway, anyone in the chat, you know what I mean? Like, let's say James Maddison was killing it at Leicester City, sort of thing. Okay, we all claim, hey, bring this signing in. He's the next man. The perfect example, met him a few weeks ago, Morgan Schneiderlin. Yep. He was at Southampton, used to run Manchester United ragged. He was the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League. Go get him, went and bought him and think, oh, he's not good enough for Manchester United. And I'm just thinking that's one of those things. Harry Maguire, we're all clamoring, okay, this big centre-back to come in, arrive and think, oh, hang on, Leicester's one thing, Manchester United is a different thing. Boxy brings up Morgan Schneider, it's a perfect name for it. Yeah. And fortunate enough to meet Morgan Schneider. And just a point of that, he's still potentially going to stay in the A-League, but he has left his club in Australia. I was fortunate enough to meet him a few weeks ago at one of the games through the supporters club. And sometimes when you get to meet these players after a game or in whatever situation, it's very quick in terms of, okay, they quickly sign a thing, have a photo, and then they walk on, continue with their day or continue with their night. Morgan Schneiderlin after the game, was about six Manchester United fans that went there with one of Rob's flags behind him, and sort of he took he had like his luggage, like his kit bag. He walked to the side away from everyone, just with us Manchester United fans. I'm telling you, Rob, it must have been there 15 minutes. In terms of just with 5 or 6 of us talking about we had a few photos, books sort of thing to get signed, the flags, etc. And this was not, okay, quickly sign, quick photo and move. He sat 15 minutes and had a chat with everyone and things like that. Was he good enough for Manchester United? Ultimately not. But Manchester United, I always go, it goes beyond the football pitch and little things like that. You could definitely tell when we're showing him 1 or 2 photos of his only goal for Manchester United in the FA Cup as well. You could definitely tell he did still have a strong connection, a strong love for the club.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. Like I said, playing for some people say that just making it at Manchester United or getting signed by Manchester United is going to be one of the highest things they'll ever get on their CV if there's no trophies. And he won the FA Cup with us, didn't he? He was in that squad.
Yeah, he's on the bench against Palace. Yeah,
there you go. So, like to say that you were in the squad and won the FA Cup with Manchester United, mate. Like that's something you'll tell his grandchildren one day. But yeah, he was, like I said, he shone at a club. He was one of the diamonds in the smaller club, but when he come to the big club, he looked like the small fish in the big tank kind of thing. So look,
well, the next name, but before we do wrap up, the next name kind of goes into this discussion in regards to if McTominay was at Southampton, I think it'd be a standout performer. McTominay, I've made, obviously anyone who tunes into the podcast knows no secret I would like to keep McTominay, but his name is there, and the reason I think his name is there in a discussion to leave is simply now people here have sort of criticised how bad he is and how woeful he is, yet as saying he's a player we can go get 40 million for. So I'm thinking, well, if you want 40 million for him, you must have something about him. So that is why I think his name is thrown in the transfer discussion, because he does hold some value. And obviously Newcastle are strongly linked. Eddie Howe, pretty much confirmed by the reliable sort of Newcastle journalist, and The Athletic as well has confirmed Eddie Howe has a concrete interest in him. Now, it's interesting in terms of, I think if Newcastle sort of stayed sort of where they were, maybe sort of 8th, 10th, maybe around the Europa League, okay, McTominay goes there and starts central midfield for Newcastle. Now they're a Champions League club. If Scott McTominay's leaving Manchester United for Newcastle for first-team football, he might not get it because Newcastle might be bringing in world-class central midfielders. So just your latest thoughts on McTominay. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to throw McFred into this. Fred was in the car park talking to the Fulham boss as well, so one of them could leave, and if one does, probably means the other one's going to stay. So just your latest thoughts on McTominay, and feel free to throw Fred in that discussion.
Yeah, look, again, a player I've had mixed feelings over my time, and I'm not going to lie. Like, 1 minute I love him, 1 minute I heavily criticize him, as Harry Maguire did. And like I said, sometimes he was one of the best players on the pitch, and sometimes he could be one of the worst. And look, again, another player that I think will do great at another Premier League team. He wouldn't be happy with his position at the moment, especially if we're looking at midfielders. I don't think he's happy as just a squad player. And if someone like a Newcastle who's interested, they were interested in January, they're interested again now. For sure, they've had some kind of talks and stuff. He's getting Champions League football. If he can break his way into that team, he's a really good squad player. That's what I'll say about Scott McTominay. So at the moment, like I say, he's not getting a lot of time with us, but if he's guaranteed a lot of minutes at Newcastle, then I wish him more luck. Especially, do
you think a club would say, let's say Fred was potentially pushing for a move, and let's just say lazily, let's say Fulham. Fred is pushing for a move to Fulham, and we can get maybe 15, 20 million pound for Fred. Do you think the club would stand in the way of a Scott McTominay in regards to just simply, you look how we've struggled for depth this season. Forget your argument about quality of depth. Just simple bodies. We've struggled for quality, or struggled for numbers in depth. So do you think the club would, if McTominay was to push for a move, would stand in Fred's way, or if Fred push for a move, would stand in McTominay's way?
No, look, I don't think they will, especially McTominay. I think, I think both players would have a good relationship with the club, and if they're saying, look, this club can offer me more minutes, more football time, and everything like that, I don't think so. But for me, if it's out of the two, I do see higher value with McTominay. Like I said, I reckon you could get 40 million for him. Fred is, 30 years old now. Like I said, a club like Fulham's not going to spend massive money on him. It might be 15, 20 million. So for price, I'd rather keep Fred if you're going to give him away for 15 million, and I would sell McTominay just for the money we'd get back for him and to put back into our transfer market, because I think that's what's going to happen. Like, I still think there's going to be a lot of outs this year. I think it's been heavily reported about that. 40 million for him, maybe 15 million for Alanga, or another 20 million here. Or
where do you think these numbers come from? Here we started this show talking about sort of reliable journalism sort of thing. The evidence we have in recent seasons, and unfortunately the last 10 years, when we sell a player, we sell them for nothing. And suddenly in this window, we're just saying, like, let's say 2 years ago, Scott McTominay was trying to sell for 30, 35 million pounds an hour. 2 years ago, Scott McTominay, let's say we get 3 million for him, 5 million for him. Suddenly now all the reliable journalism and us as Manchester United fans are talking about 30, 40 million pounds, which I think is what's right in regards to the market value. But Manchester United haven't sold to the market.
I think I've lost you.
Up to the market standard. I'm not sure if Rob's still with me. I'm back in here. Do let me know if Rob potentially has dropped out. Let us know. My internet is a little bit shaky, but we're about to wrap up anyway. So do let us know in the chat who you can see. Hopefully it's me and Rob's not stuck alone. But He's just come back in here now potentially, but Charlie's sharing his views. 80 million for Mount. Definitely don't think 80 million for Mount, but yeah, we had that chat at the start, Charlie. So rewind and I've had that chat, but I think we definitely strongly agreed that we do have to be very careful with the transfer fee for Mason Mount. But I'll bring Rob back in. You there with us, mate?
Yep, I'm there. Sorry, you froze up on me, so I just left it.
Yeah, I think my internet looked a little bit shaky, but no, all sorted. But where were we? Just your thoughts in regards to why. Did you agree with it? Disagree? Do you trust the sources in regards to the prices for our players? Because I like them, but I haven't seen it before.
Yes, well, look, when we're actually selling players and getting the money that's rumored at the moment, then we can actually have a little bit more concrete behind it. But look, the only thing I can think of is Ten Hag. Has to be a bit of Ten Hag and the way we're running the club now, the way we want to try and reboot, not just bring in all these wages, bring in all these big things and sell them for nothing. I think the club's going to have an actual stand now and say, okay, if you want this player, we think he's worth this much. This is a fair trade. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of negotiations, and I think we'll get the money, man. I think we've turned the corner. I think we're trying to be a good run club again, a professionally run club, which we haven't been for the past decade. Everyone's kind of, we've had the United tax and then we sell them for peanuts kind of thing. So I think if we start now under Ten Hag and we make good business, both ins and outs, I think we will start getting a lot better money. And it depends as well. It depends on, we haven't had the best of seasons the last 3, 4, 5 years. When the team's not in form and the players are not in form, their market value is not going to be up too. We're just made Champions League. We're playing good football. Obviously a player like Scott McTominay, he's got age on his side. He's got, he's got height on his side. He's got, he's pretty versatile. He can play defensive. He can play as an 8. So players like that are worth money. And a club like Newcastle now, with number one, their owners, and number two, their Champions League money, they've got the money, and we can actually say to them, it's 40 million or nothing now, not just kind of hand over a player for no reason.
It's interesting here, just in regards, we'll wrap up quickly, but in regards to the McTominay discussion in Newcastle, Al brings a point up here. Newcastle aren't plucky underdogs anymore. They've got all the Saudi oil money. They'll surpass United in a couple of years. That discussion with United, we can debate that till the cows come home. But just in regards to that, I see a lot of Newcastle fans, and I think they just get caught up in regards to the sort of McTominay and the sort of the perception around him in regards to Manchester United, their reaction, or the online fan or Twitter, their reaction towards players like McTominay and Maguire, that they see that and okay, he's not good enough. McTominay, shit, he's no good. I have a real look. Newcastle, the trajectory they're on, of course, they look like they're going to go on and be quite successful in future sort of years to come. But at the moment, let's say Arsenal have a good season next year. Let's say United have a good season. Chelsea bounce back. Liverpool bounce back. Manchester City are going to do what they do. Tottenham have a good season. Harry Kane stays, scores 40 goals. There is a chance, even if Newcastle in 5 years might be in the Champions League or winning Premier Leagues, there's a chance next year they drop back down, maybe 5th, 6th, maybe even 10th. That's going to happen. Their first season in the Champions League, how's Eddie Howe going to be sort of suited to that? So that is where I look, a lot of Newcastle fans turning their nose up at McTominay thinking, we need to go from 4th to 2nd. But you could go from 4th to 7th. And maybe that is where McTominay sort of does have that value for what Eddie Howe might be thinking rather than their fans.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point, man. Yeah, exactly right. We know how strong top 6 is, top 7, top 8 is now.
You can have a good season. You can have a good season. And just 4 teams have a good season as well, and you're going to finish 5th.
Exactly. As you said, all those teams, even next year, like you look at us now and you say 3rd, like who's to say we're going to get 3rd next year? Like even we're going to go spend money, we're going to back in, we're going to be in Champions League, but again, those straight back up. I can't see Chelsea and Liverpool hanging around where they were mid-table. Obviously, Liverpool moved right up in the end, but Chelsea are going to be back in the mix next year. Spurs, they're always going to be back in. But like I said, and then you're going to get your dark horse like your Brighton or your Aston Villa, one of those ones like your Brentford, who's also going to push. Newcastle this year, I had them come in. If they came 10th this year, I think that's what I predicted them. They came top 4, so I thought it was going to be a slow burner when they had their takeover. I thought, maybe in 5 years.
But that's what I still think it will. I won't be shocked if they drop down and maybe out of Europe next year.
100%, and it's quite possible. Now, I don't think
that's not to be critical of them. I just think that'll be a bit of the progression.
Yep, that's it. And 100%, I agree with you, man. It's the competition's too much right at the moment, and it's look at us. I think it's every second year we're in the Champions League now. 1 year Champions League, 1 year Europa League.
The only club since Manchester City got in there, they haven't dropped out. Chelsea have dropped out, Liverpool have dropped out, we've dropped out. I think Newcastle will drop out. Manchester City are the only one. You have to unfortunately give them credit. We don't want to give them too much credit before the weekend. But just the last point on here, in regards to Newcastle and McTominay, United shafts 50 million. Newcastle is a rival now. Let's say, okay, we can bring in money for Scott McTominay. Well, if it's going towards Newcastle, and Newcastle obviously buying in for their benefit. I'm just thinking, do we want to be strengthening a rival? Because we've never had Newcastle in that discussion. It's been Chelsea or Arsenal sort of thing. But we have, I think a lot of us just say, yeah, okay, Newcastle, we can see that. Let's do it. If that's going to give them an extra 3 points, how many points did we finish above them this season? I'm just thinking, well, hang on, that's going to affect us. So does that come into United's thinking? I think it should.
I guess it should, yeah. You're right. Look, they are there. You know, like I said, they were in that discussion with us all year. Like I said, it might change next year. But yeah, it's hard. Like, we can't have everything. At the moment, we're going from like, okay, let's get from 15 to 40 million. Now we're saying, all right, let's not sell him for that reason. So if we're bringing in other players, I think we're going to need money regardless.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that money discussion, a lot will come down. Maybe on Monday we'll have an answer on who our new owners are, because we win or we lose. I think, as Larry alluded to, regardless of the result, I think we do get ownership news on Monday morning. And whether it's positive or negative news, I'm not sure, but they're guaranteed there will be news. Who knows how it will end up? Fingers crossed it is positive news, but appreciate that, Rob, for joining us. As said, Rob is on It's a Football Thing. The link is in the description below if you need a little bit more Premier League chat. And look, forget Premier League chat, Rob. It is FA Cup. And as you can see, Rob is here with us in Sydney. You've got the Man United Supporters Club flag behind us. We're meeting up on Saturday night. I am looking forward to seeing you, Rob, but not really. I'm dreading the parts of it. I'll have to be honest. There are parts I'm not looking forward to on Saturday night, but it could be. What's a bigger game? What game has had a bigger feeling for you in terms of the recent history? Let's say sort of whether it be post-Fergie or even the latter years of Fergie, let's say, not including Champions League finals. This game for me, I'm starting to think now, this probably is the biggest game I've ever felt before, besides the Champions League finals. I'm just thinking, I can't think of a bigger game than this for me. And maybe for the wrong reasons. But for me, this is as big as it gets.
If we were to win this game, it'll be one of those games I'll sit there and watch a million times.
I think I'd put it in a Champions League category. I think I'd put it in.
And it's not just that, look, they could go on and do the treble next year, but it's just for us in the transition season, Eric, like to do a domestic double in our first season after coming third, but first ever Manchester derby. It's crazy to think that out of all FA Cup finals, there's never been a Manchester for how both clubs are now. And like, you know, how we were, how they were, and where we are right now. To think this has never happened, and like I said, obviously with what's riding on the line with the treble at state and all this, but mate, for me, it's a knife's edge. This is going to be one of the best FA Cup finals nearly I've ever seen for the stage of it, or it's going to be just a nightmare that we just want to erase out of our heads, because it's either going to be we've stopped them, we've gone a domestic double, we've beat one of the best teams in the world, which is City now, unfortunately, or it's going to be. We had our job to stop them doing the treble if they go on and do it, and I think it'll be a bit of a, right now we're on a high how we finish the season. Just that last game, if we weren't to win, it's just, unless something comes out the next day with some really positive news, it's going to be like ending the season on a little bit of a downer, considering, how G'd up we just got over that speech after coming third on the last day, after we've had a little bit of a run lately, just, I don't know.
I'll accept losing. I'll be able to deal with the loss if Romelu Lukaku bends it in on the top corner a couple of days later. I'll gladly accept a loss if Inter can do it in the Champions League.
I'd prefer them not to win the Champions League and us to. And look, for both of them.
Just if we lose, I can deal with losing. I say, okay, they've won the domestic double. I can deal with that. Yeah. I don't know if I can deal with them winning a treble.
No, definitely not. But if you had to pick the one FA Cup for them to win, or the Champions League for them to win, not the treble or double, which one would you prefer?
Oh, they beat us. I don't want them winning the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm the same. There's something they haven't won yet. I don't want them to win the Champions League. So if it's going to be 2 out of the 3, I'd rather them win the Champions League.
Look at the situation they've put us in.
I know. It's just the double they've done. It's just the double.
Well, hopefully it's our cup double. But Al here, we had the preview yesterday, so I go back on the last video. Larry and I was at the pub. We had a bit of a preview. It was recorded before the Anthony Martial news. I'm not sure who we're playing up front there, but Justin here might be a long drive home from the pub. Fingers crossed it's not. But if you are in Sydney, now I have to be honest with you. If you are in Sydney, the Man United Supporters Club are at Scruffy Murphy's. Members do have priority, and I'm telling you, it is quite packed already in regards to reserve. There are not many spaces left, so if you're in Sydney and you want to come along to Scruffy's and you're not a member of the Supporters Club, I'd start lining up now, because it is going to be very busy, and members do have priority. So wherever you are around the world, especially in Sydney, if you're not a member of your local Supporters Club, please do sign up. Obviously, many benefits, and the main benefit this week is a guaranteed seat, hottest ticket in town in Sydney to watch Man United, hopefully beat City in the FA Cup final. But Rob, been an absolute pleasure as always, and I'm going to see you, I wouldn't say bright and early, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock on Saturday night, maybe 4 or 5 hours drinking before kickoff.
Yeah, look, that's the part I'm sure we're going to enjoy. I'm not going to say I'm relaxed, but, it's always good to have a bit of a chit-chat, have a few beverages, have a feed, and then I'm sure once 11 o'clock comes and the teams get released, that's when the nerves are definitely going to start kicking in. I'll start pulling my hair out, but look, I was a shocker just when we watched the League Cup final against Newcastle, and we were up 2-0 at half time. So I don't know how.
I watched that back a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I watched the Carabao Cup final with Robert, and just the nerves throughout that match. 3:30 on a Monday morning, sort of thing. The nerves throughout that was absolutely horrible. I went and watched that match back a couple of weeks ago. United was so comfortable. We had nothing to be nervous about. It was the most straightforward final. But it is crazy. Boxy, do you have a lot of Man City fans in Sydney? Interesting. They actually do have quite a good supporters club here. Now, obviously nothing on our supporters club, and that's not to be big-headed or anything. They don't. But to be fair, they do have a decent little following. How many were there before 2008? I'm not sure. You can ask them. But they're just up the road. They're about 200 metres up the road from our pub. So when Casemiro goes through Erling Haaland, I'm sure some of us can have some choice words outside the pub. But until then, Rob, see you Saturday. Hopefully everyone does enjoy their weekend. As I said, this time tomorrow, 8:30 Sydney time, 11:30 in the UK, where episode 300 of our audio-only pubcast is going on. So the link is in the description below if you're not subscribed on our podcast app, so your iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. But an episode is going up. It'll go up here as well as a premiere tomorrow night on YouTube as well. But just looking back at sort of the episodes we've done, why we started it, how it's gone, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and then obviously all the sort of memories about it, some of the guests we've had, and I think there's some random United discussion in there. I think we'll discuss some Harry Kane, Mason Greenwood was in there, statues, etc. We've discussed a lot. So if you've got nothing to do tomorrow night, grab a beer, and 8:30 tomorrow night Sydney time, a bit of a Friday night pint for you. And then after that, it is obviously some type of review of the FA Cup final. Hopefully it's a good one. But until then, have a good one. Cheers, Rob. Take care, everyone in the live chat. Have a good one.
Ciao.